Go into the world and tell every man that you meet, there is a man on the cross.
A Catholic Take. What you need to know right now. A bold synthesis of inspiration and information. Keeping you up to date on the news and issues from a courageous Catholic perspective.
A Catholic Take with Joe McLean starts now.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. Praise be to God. It is good to be on with you. It's Friday. We have survived it thus far. It's Friday, June 13th. So we've got a lot to talk about. It's an anniversary of Fatima. That's obviously something. We're also going to be talking about the Israel attacking Hamas story. Could that get even more serious than it already has? Well, we might get into that. Rob Morrow Jr. is going to join us in the Aftershow. He's got a book out about Malachi Martin I want to talk to him about, but I also want to pick his brain about Israel and Iran. That on the program today. And then Dr. Anthony Stine is going to be on. We're going to talk about a couple of stories. Vigano praying for Leo. Sounds incredibly upbeat and positive. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that's a good sign. We'll get his take coming up at 30 past the hour. Also, what's next for Bishop Joseph Strickland? Well, he's going to Poland and Prague. You could go with him. I can't. I already went with him. I can't go again. But you could. We're going to get Ellen on the team who helps to coordinate those trips to tell us all about that. Plus, we're going to tease Scotland. Scotland coming up next year, which, by the way, there was a TLM said at Mount Everest, the highest ever mass said in the world by a Scottish priest. Praise be to God. So we have a lot to talk about today. We will, of course, include the show notes to everything we discuss in the show over at thestationofthecross.com/ACT, where you could smash that donate button and it would mean the world to us for you to be on the team. Again, thestationofthecross.com/ACT. We're going to pray. We're going to get started, but do share us with a friend. We'd be grateful. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And now your saint of the day.
Saint Anthony of Padua, pray for us. Anthony was born Ferdinand in the year of our Lord 1195 to a noble family in Lisbon, Portugal. At a young age, he entered the Augustinians and was ordained a priest. But 10 years later, he left to become a Franciscan, hoping to die a martyr's death by preaching to the Saracens. He took the name Anthony in honor of St. Anthony the Abbot, and eventually ended up in Italy. Anthony was quiet and humble, but one day he was prevailed upon to preach, and he stunned all present with his wisdom and eloquence. He went on to earn the title Hammer of the Heretics for his preaching against error. Anthony also worked many miracles. He purified poisoned food with a simple sign of the cross, caused a donkey to kneel before the true presence, bilocated, and famously preached a sermon to the fishes near Padua. Considered a saint during his own lifetime, Anthony died at just 36 years of age in the year of our Lord 1231, and was canonized the very next year. At the exhumation of the body about 30 years later, St. Bonaventure found Anthony's tongue perfectly preserved, as if still ready to preach another mighty sermon. Among many other patronages, Anthony is best known for helping to find lost items. For more about this day and others in the Church's calendar, visit thestationofthecross.com/saints and seasons. St. Anthony of Padua, pray for us.
And now your headline news. Ground News reports Israel launches strikes on Iran, attacking nuclear sites and other targets. In a dramatic escalation of tensions in the Middle East, Israel launched a pre-dawn strike on Tehran early Friday, targeting what it described as Iranian nuclear and military facilities, in addition to executing individuals connected to their nuclear program. The Trump administration stated that Israel's actions were unilateral, and warned Iran not to retaliate against American interests. Catholic News Agency is reporting Pope and Indian bishops mourn crash of airliner that killed hundreds. Pope Leo mourned the deaths of 240 passengers who died in an Air India plane that crashed on its way to London Thursday. The Pope said he was deeply saddened by the tragedy and offered prayers that the mercy of the Almighty would be extended to the victims. And the Associated Press is reporting Trump can keep National Guard deployed to Los Angeles for now, appeals court rules. The Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals on Thursday temporarily blocked a federal judge's order that directed President Donald Trump to return control of National Guard troops to California after he deployed them following protests in Los Angeles over immigration raids. The Ninth U.S. Circuit Court panel of 3 judges, 2 Trump-nominated and 1 Biden-nominated, stayed the lower court ruling and scheduled a hearing for June 17th to further examine the constitutional and statutory questions involved. And those are your headline news. The gospel today comes to us from Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 through 32. Jesus said to his disciples, "You have heard that it was said to them of old, 'Thou shalt not commit adultery.' But I say to you that whosoever shall look on a woman to lust after her hath already committed adultery with her in his heart. And if thy right eye scandalize thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee, for it is expedient for thee that one of thy members should perish rather than the whole body be cast into hell. And if thy right hand scandalize thee, cut it off and cast it from thee, for it is expedient for thee that one of thy members should perish, rather than that the whole body go into hell. And it hath been said, Whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a bill of divorce. But I say to you, that whoever shall put away his wife, excepting for the cause of fornication, maketh her to commit adultery. And he that shall marry her, that is put away, committeth adultery." The Gospel of the Lord. Laus tibi Christi. Cornelius a Lapide would say, Christ passes from anger to concupiscence. You might remember yesterday we talked about the degrees of anger. We call that brother Raka, call that brother fool, etc., etc. Well, today we go from anger, now we go to concupiscence. Because these two passions have the greatest influence over men. And as he explained in the commandment, thou shalt not kill, to forbid anger, so he here explains, thou shalt not commit adultery, to forbid concupiscence. For many of the scribes and Pharisees greatly erred in their exposition of this precept, as well as of the former. For although they knew that it was commanded by the 10th precept of the Decalogue, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nevertheless they erred. 1, because they understood it of concupiscence, not altogether internal, but such as it wont to break out in touch, kisses, lasciviousness, words, and such the like. According to the maximum, the law prohibits the hand, not the mind. St. Jerome would say, for touching Moses' allowance of divorce, the Lord and Savior more fully explains in conclusion that it was because of the hardness of the hearts of the husbands, not so much sanctioning discord as checking bloodshed, to prevent the indiscriminate killing of wives. Because, hey, this one's not really working out, so maybe I should get another one. How do I do that? I don't know. Go watch the movie The Stoning of Sariah M. It'll give you a pretty good concept of what life was like before Moses implemented this rule. They just indiscriminately decide, well, murdering my wife, accusing her or something, freeze the way. It opens up the new possibilities, let's just say. Pseudo-Chrysostom would say, for when Moses brought the children of Israel up out of Egypt, they were indeed Hebrews in race, but Egyptians in manners. And it was caused by the Gentile manners that the husbands hated the wife. And if he was not permitted to put her away, he was ready either to kill her or ill-treat her. Moses, therefore, suffered the bill of divorcement not because it was good practice in itself, but was the prevention of worse evil. Father Haydock would say, accepting the cause of fornication, a divorce or separation as to bed or abroad, may be permitted for some weighty causes in Christian marriages. But even then, he that marrieth her that is dismissed commits adultery. As to this, there is no exception. The bond of marriage is perpetual, and what God hath joined, no power on earth can separate. The knot of marriage is so sacred a tie that the separation of the parties cannot loosen it, it being not lawful for either of the parties to marry again upon divorce. What are they saying here? So just because there might be a reason to separate is not a reason to divorce. And this word fornication, by the way, the Greek word there is porneia. It's the root word with which we get pornography, to pornify something, to take something good and pervert it. This porneia is not just as St. Augustine talks about, it's not just the sexual license here, the sexual perversion, the sexual adultery that goes on. It's the adultery of faith. It's the adultery of liturgy. It's the adultery of religion that's also being implemented here. It's very fascinating. We don't have time to go into it further, but I would say what Jesus does here is take us back to the original intent of the law. A law that regulates not just our bodies, but regulates our hearts and our minds as well. The old law didn't seem to do that, and Jesus has come to lay down something greater than the old law, a fulfilling of it and a perfecting of it in Jesus himself. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Did you know you can help evangelize simply by using your cell phone? The Station of the Cross is partnering with iCatholic Mobile, America's only Catholic mobile phone company. When you join iCatholic Mobile, a portion of every dollar will support our programming. Plus, you'll enjoy great service with iCatholic Unlimited 5G data, text, and talk. With iCatholic Mobile, you can stay connected with family and friends while also spreading the truth of Jesus Christ with clarity and charity. Join today at iCatholicMobile.com.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Coming up at 30 past the hour, Dr. Anthony Stine is back on the team today from Return to Tradition, returntotradition.org. He's got some great stories out this week. Bishop Schneider is in the headlines, but so is Archbishop Vigano praying for Pope Leo. Seems really, really positive, don't you think? I think so. We're going to get his take on that, plus some other stories at 30 past the hour. Do join us for that if you can. I saw this story here from the National Catholic Register. Mount Everest Mass makes history at the top of the world. A Scottish priest scales Everest to keep a Christmas vow and plants a seed for Nepal's first high-altitude parish. If I'm not mistaken, he said the TLM, as a matter of fact, on Everest. The highest ever in the world. That's pretty fascinating, to say the least. But it was a Scottish priest, of all priests. Next year this time, May 25th through June 7th next year, I'm going to go to Scotland, praise be to Jesus. And I'm going to follow in the footsteps of St. Columba, St. Margaret of Scotland, Mary Queen of Scots, who through her lineage, you get Karl and Zita Habsburg. I mean, there's so many amazing things that are going to be happening on this trip. It just blows my mind. St. Margaret Clitheroe, St. Edmund Campion, Shakespeare. I mean, there's just so many stops along this way. The Venerable Bede. There's just so many stops. Philip of Arundel. It's going to be a jam-packed event happening next year in Scotland and England, May 25th through June 7th. We're still just planning it. It's not been finalized, but I got to tell you, this story really got me excited about it. Father Ninian Duhan, 44, raised a chalice during a mass celebrated 17,598 feet up from the valley at Mount Everest Base Camp using a hewn stone as his altar. There is a cave in Scotland on the west coast in the Hebrides that belongs to St. Columba. And it's a barren cave. It's not like the cave of St. John the Apostle, which is highly decorated today on Patmos. I was just there. But the cave in Scotland for Columba is very barren, except for the altar where he said Mass. There's another cave, the cave of St. Farah. I'm hoping to stop there too. And so that's on the East Coast. Mass was said for 1,000 years in that cave prior to the Protestant Reformation. So a very, very wonderful thing to think about all of the priests over the millennia, the past couple of millennia, who have said Masses in places like this on stone altars that they've fashioned for the time, for the opportunity. The liturgy, the Missa Pro Pace, the Mass for Peace, capped an 8-day ascent from Lukla in fulfillment of the promise he made to Sherpa trekking guide. That's funny. When he baptized him at St. Patrick's Church in Edinburgh, which we're going there, on Christmas Day, saying he'd meet him on his own native soil. That's a big deal. It's a big promise. Could you imagine how hard it was just to get up to 17,598 feet on Everest, let alone bring all of the accoutrement that you need in order to say a Mass? I know I hiked up 7,000 feet with the troops of St. George last year, and we brought a priest and we had to bring all of his stuff. It took 3 of us to carry all that stuff up so he could say Masses for us up there. So this was kind of a big deal. What a big promise. He baptizes the Sherpa, and then he fulfills his promise hiking all the way up there with his mom, by the way. The priest brought his mother, the priest brought his mother up to Everest to say the Mass. Praise be to God. I'm going to link to this in the show notes there. So congratulations to this Scottish priest saying the TLM on top of Everest. He didn't go all the way to the top. It's close enough, though. Close enough. I'm going to give him a pass for the rest of the distance. Joining us now, though, is Ellen Steeves-LeBlanc, who went with me and Bishop Strickland to Greece, to Turkey, and to Rome. Good morning to you, Ellen. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Good morning, Joe. How are you this beautiful day?
Praise be to God, I'm alive, and that counts. Have you recovered from the big trip that we just went on?
Oh, yeah. Yes, definitely. I've learned secrets. You just stay up really late and you sleep as much as you can for a couple of days, and your body is like, oh, okay, I can be back in America now.
No way. It took me a whole week to finally feel like I had my energy back. It took me 5 days to work out again for the first time. It was, I guess getting old has its downsides, I suppose, but it was an epic trip.
Yeah. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I still see, every time I think about it, there's so many different things I think about, but Corinth, doing Mass out there on that stone altar, you know what I mean? Yeah. It was just, remarkable. And then seeing the Pope, I mean, how close are we to the Pope? I mean,
you were closer than anybody else. You were 2 feet, 3 feet. You were you could probably smell him as he drove by. It was that close. I was a little further. He was very, very close.
Yeah. But it was spectacular. Yeah. And then we went through all the Jubilee doors. And I mean, of course, we did the procession up carrying the cross, to the Jubilee door at St. Peter's. I mean, just, there's just so many memories. And the group of people we were with, oh my gosh. I mean, we've created this small little family. Yeah. And a lot of them want to go on the trip to Scotland. They're very, very excited about that. So
my kids are, you know what was one of the more, so we went through the proposed itinerary the other day, and I involved my kids in the process because I'm hoping to take everybody with me next year. And one of the more exciting points for my kids was, this is silly, but it was when we leave St. Andrews, over by St. Andrews on the East Coast, is the beach where they filmed Chariots of Fire. My kids exploded with excitement over that one. They couldn't wait to recreate the famous scene. Dun, 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 dun. So we're gonna have a ball on the beach.
You know what's amazing about that is that your children even know what Chariots of Fire is. Kudos to you and your wife for educating your children of the quality things in life.
It's actually the schedule is jam-packed full of saints and history that affects more than just Scotland and England. I mean, Mary Queen of Scots, her children, her grandchildren, her great that's how you get Carl and Zita come from Mary Queen of Scots. I mean, it's amazing to think the connections around the world, the impact Scotland has had on America, for instance, is huge. The White House was built by Masons from Scotland. The city that was laid out in Washington, D.C., the Scottish Masons, participated in that in a very significant way, let alone so many other achievements and contributions. Then you talk about the saints, St. Columba, St. Farah, St. Margaret of Scotland, St. Margaret Clitheroe, St. Edmund Campion, St. Philip of Arundel. I mean, it just goes on and on. So this trip is crammed with a veritable litany of saints and incredible stops. And then, of course, there's the tourist editions, too, like going to Loch Ness, where St. Columba exorcised the demon there. And then you're right next to Culloden, where the last Jacobite cause lost its last opportunity to take back the chair for the Stuarts. I mean, it's just a fascinating thing to think. So much history. There's so many saints involved, and all of that potentially coming up next year. We haven't finalized anything, have we?
No, well, I mean, the dates are pretty locked in. I mean, we're looking at May 25th, you know what I mean? And it's just a matter of formalizing the itinerary, and then we'll be able to get it, put together within the next, I would say probably I'll be able to go live within the next 30 days or so. I mean, it's not going to take too long to do that. The owner of the company, Adita at Select International Tours, she's just thrilled with this itinerary. A lot of Catholics don't understand how much Catholic history there is in Scotland. And a lot of people just kind of overlook it. And it's so critical as like you were pointing out, to so many parts of our history. Not just the Catholic history, American history, you know what I mean? Like all the history of the world. And it's a big deal. And then of course we end up going to Our Lady of Walsingham, you know what I mean? And spending time in London. So we're going to go to a Marian shrine. So it's really jam packed with some really good stuff. But, May 25th next year is the date that we're kind of working with right now for the start of the pilgrimage.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
And it's going to be phenomenal. It's just going to be phenomenal.
Several people have reached out to me and say, hey, Joe, when's the next time Bishop Strickland's going on another trip? I want to go. I don't know that he has another trip planned to Greece. I didn't see anything planned for Greece, but he is going to Poland and Prague this year. So if you want to go hang out with Bishop Strickland,
there are a few spaces left.
You still got an opportunity. Tell me about the trip to Poland and Prague.
Oh, it's amazing. We go September 2nd, which I know is a little short for people, but, if you really want to experience Poland and, Divine Mercy in Krakow, and we will go to Auschwitz, and we'll actually get to pray at the location, the dark cell, I call it, that St. Maximum Kolbe, basically had the end of his life in before. I mean, I've been there before. It's a very strong and powerful thing. Of course, we go to Vadavis, St. John Paul II's hometown, and the museum there is phenomenal. We do mass in the church that was his family's church. He lived next door to it. I mean, it's good. St. Faustina, we do a lot of Divine Mercy. And then we're going to go down and see the real Infant of Prague down in Prague, which will be just amazing. But the culture there and it's such a rich country full of Catholicity. I highly recommend, if anybody is really like, gee, I want to go on a pilgrimage of Bishop Strickland, and it's going to be just a beautiful, reverent, gorgeous, faith-filled pilgrimage this September with Select International Tours. And it's just, your normal 11, 12-day pilgrimage. It's not like we extended it or did anything, because the one we just did to Greece and Rome was extended. It was a full 14 days. But this one is a little bit shorter, which is great. But we needed that. We needed the days that we took for sure. So selectinternationaltours.com is the easiest way to get to it, to sign up for Bishop Strickland's pilgrimage to Poland and Prague, and it's going to be spectacular. We have a wonderful people that have signed up. There's a few spaces left to sign up, and we really would love to have anyone who wants to join us with us. And I will be going as well. I was on, like you said, with you, Joe, and I guess you would call me more like the mother hen, wouldn't you, Joe?
I described you to my wife more as like a Cub Scouts den mom kind of a thing, like, the soccer mom. You really did so much work to sort of keep it organized and keep everybody on task and where we're going. You really did a yeoman's job to make sure everything was as smooth as possible. So we couldn't thank you enough for all your hard work on that trip, because it was huge.
Welcome.
Greece, all over Greece, across the Aegean Sea to Turkey, only to get sniped with the Turkish rug thing. That was the only real downside, to be honest with you. But the whole trip was just utterly jam-packed full of amazing time. And I got to say, Select International Tours did such a nice job organizing everything, making it, you don't have to think. You're just like, what are we doing today? And it's all planned out and ready to go. And the local guides are amazing, incredibly insightful and knowledgeable. And I loved how, especially in Turkey, our local guide was a practicing Christian. Praise be to Jesus. I thought that was
it's amazing.
Awesome. But our guide in Rome was the most interesting
that's very
of all.
Important.
Yeah, so
Yes.
Prague,
Yeah.
Poland and Prague. If you want a chance to hang out with Bishop Strickland this year, you can do it September the 2nd through the 13th. Poland and Prague, act fast, though, before it all fills up. You can go to Select International Tours to get to the details, but we'll put a link to it in the show notes. Ellen, looking forward to our trip to Scotland. We'll have you back to talk about that once we finalize it.
Exactly.
All right. God bless you, Ellen.
Bless.
Praise
God
be
bless
to
you
Jesus.
too. Thank you, Joe.
In all things, coming up after the break, let's talk to our good friend Dr. Anthony Stine about a couple of stories that he's covered over at returntotradition.org. Vigano, praying for Leo. Very, very insightful. Plus, I want to talk more about the Israeli-Iran war. All that and more. Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McLean, and here are your headline news. Just the News reports Trump plans executive order to block deportations for farm workers. President Donald Trump yesterday indicated that he was planning an executive order to prevent the deportations of illegal alien farm and hotel workers. Quote, they've been there for 20, 25 years and they've worked great, and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else, close quote. Trump insisted that if he deported long-standing farm workers, the farmers would then hire the criminals, whom he said President Joe Biden allowed in the country. The Hill reports Supreme Court revives lawsuit over mistaken FBI raid. In a unanimous decision, the Supreme Court yesterday revived an Atlanta family's lawsuit over a botched FBI raid, but put off deciding the case's ultimate fate. Federal agents smashed through Trina Martin's front door back in 2017 while executing a search for a gang member. Wrong house, I suppose. Martin sued the government in 2019 under the Federal Tort Claims Act, but a federal judge in Atlanta dismissed the suit, and the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals upheld that decision. But the justices say that the lower courts erred, and they are ordering them to re-examine the case. Ground News reports Israel notified Washington before the strike in Iran. Israel was fully coordinating with Washington on Iran and notified the United States before its strike on Iranian targets. State broadcaster Khan quoted an Israeli official as saying on Friday. The official, who was not named, told the broadcaster that recent reports of rifts between Israel and Washington were false, but they didn't deny them because they wanted to confuse Iran. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the United States has said its involvement in the strikes. They were not involved, but their top priority is to protect American forces in the region. Those are your headline news. Praise be to God in all things. Joining us now, again, is our good friend of the show, Dr. Anthony Stine from returntotradition.org. Good morning to you, Dr. Stine. Thanks for hanging out with us.
No audio, Dr. Stein. If you could
we're
check
having a little bit of technical problem there. Well, while we're working on that, I do want to share this story real quick. Hopefully we can get that audio sorted out here real quick. But I saw this story yesterday, and I'm praying, and I want you to pray with me that this is fake news. Totally fake news. That's the goal. That's what we want this to be. We do not want this to be true in any other way. But the headline over at the Gloria TV Post says, newspaper says Leo the 14th confirms Cardinal Fernandez. I'm going to reword the headline here. Cardinal Fernandez is prefect of the doctrine. I'm going to pray that this is fake news. Pope Leo XIV has received Cardinal Fernandez for the third time today, it says, according to religiondigital.org. He says he answered yes to the Pope's question about as to whether he could count on him. And Leo XIV confirmed him as head of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. Now, I tried to verify this one way or the other yesterday, and I was unable to do so, which is what leads me to have some hope that this is fake news. This isn't true. I want to be wrong.
So Dr. Stein I want to be right now. And for the record, I just want to step in here because not only is this only sourced from one Spanish language progressive blog, but I actually have heard an opposing rumor, again, not confirmed, but a rumor from Rome that potentially Archbishop Anthony Fisher from Australia will be the new head of the DDF. So this is two conflicting rumors. I don't know who
Fisher is, but I'd take him over Fernandez every day and twice.
Yeah, basically we don't know, and as Rorate Chaley says, basically no one knows anything. So beware of any speculation and don't overreact. But we do have Dr. Stein back on.
Dr. Stein, welcome to the team.
Thanks for having me on. And I reported on that story this morning with the caveat of let's compare these two stories together. The one from Gloria TV, who's usually, despite people hating them, pretty accurate with their reporting, at least the EN news services, compared it to the Religion Digital one. And the tone of the Religion Digital one is wishy-washy. Yes, he was confirmed, but if the Pope does this, if the Pope goes through with it, if the Pope keeps him, yeah, which makes it sound really up in the air. And my whole point was, let's see what happens. We will know by the end of the summer who the appointments are. The Vatican has said as much, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he kept him. But it wouldn't surprise me if he got rid of him. But the Religion Digital article did say one thing that is accurate.
Okay.
And that is, if he keeps him there or puts him in the charge of the dicastery for the bishops, which if you want to make Fernandez Papabile, put him in the dicastery for the bishops, because then he'll be DDF prefect and the bishop's prefect, means he's had personal experience and theological experience. That's not what you want, and especially since I'm not convinced that Leo will be here for 20 years. I'm not one of those convinced of that. But the other
would be
is
horrible. He's got to go, right? Like he has to be
there.
Retire this guy.
If he keeps him there, it looks like he's endorsing Francis's vision for the church and his theology. If he doesn't keep him there, it looks like he's slighting Pope Francis.
Right.
I don't envy him for that position where he has to be, even though I'm completely fine with him sending him to become the cardinal delegate, maybe the papal nuncio to Antarctica. You know, he can provide mass for the scientists and whatever wildlife is in Antarctica, just far away from Rome. That would be my ideal place for him. Yeah, you don't usually write books with titles like "Heal Me with Your Mouth" as a churchman and keep your job, but apparently he did. Yeah, so
yeah. So you're saying that if we made him a nuncio to Antarctica, he won't be writing books at that point. We could
right. It's either that or
protect our interests by keeping him busy.
If he wants to keep his enemies closer, and if he sees him that way, then making him also in charge of the Vatican archives would be fine, because it makes him a librarian, basically. The Vatican archives are not as interesting as the books in Hollywood make it out to be. Unless you're a historian, maybe the Third Secret of Fatima text is there, but beyond that, it's not that interesting of a place. Unless you're a historian. But put him in there where he can't really do anything except, I don't know, figure out how to fit some more filing cabinets in the Vatican archives or something, and just be done with him. But we'll know soon. But I will point out that they had a consistory this morning for the canonization of saints.
Right.
And as of right now,
back on the table.
Well, not just back on the table. His date was announced for October. But not only do they have a consistory, meaning the cardinals were there to discuss these things, there were no announcements made. So there's nothing on the Vatican website.
I looked up the Vatican website this morning just to check to see if anything had been said, and nothing, which is why I said I was unable to confirm this. Oh, don't say
hold
that.
on.
Don't throw me any curveballs. It's too early in the morning.
But I just refreshed the page of the Vatican Bulletin, and it went from just the ordinary publican's history to a whole bunch of other things now.
Oh no,
including a notice at press conference.
Oh no, don't say
well, it's about the environmental and energetic sustainability project.
Well, I'll take that. That's better.
Yeah, I hate confirmed. Those, so I don't know. Like, that's not like. They've got some audience of the president of the Republic of Lebanon, Holy Father for the Ninth World Day of the Poor, and an audience. Perhaps we should check the audience.
We should check the audience.
His Eminence Cardinal Luis Tagle will be there, and Cardinal Fernando Vergez Alzaga.
How about we do this? How about we do this? Let's get producer Jake to drill into those. Jake, go onto the Vatican News website. Check out the daily briefing at the Vatican website. See if you can find anything about an audience with Fernandez, if you can. In the meantime, I want to turn to a story that I found really fascinating that you covered, and that was Archbishop Vigano praying for Pope Leo. This sounded really upbeat and positive from Vigano, who isn't really known for that in the last few years. What's going on?
No, and then like a couple days later, he gave some address to some secular political types talking about the New World Order and his usual kind of political stuff where he's talking about the Antichrist and stuff. So this is, unusually upbeat for him. And I didn't see any real criticisms of Leo in there. He's offered one kind of hinting, don't be so over the top enthusiastic that you get caught up in a whirlwind. And in case he is a Francis II kind of thing. That was the only other time I've heard him be negative. But this was his Pentecost Sunday address. And it's what you would expect a bishop to post for the Pope. If he was going to do something like this is what it would sound like. There's nothing wrong with it. And
no, it's good, actually.
Any sensible person would find offensive about this. Even like the, where Peter is crowd should probably applaud this, even though they would say, well, who cares what a excommunicated archbishop has to say? But many of us don't think that his excommunication was valid. But that's a whole other story for another time, probably.
Do we have that? Can you give us a sample of his prayer?
Oh, I've got the text. I have the text of it. If you want to be able to pull it up on screen, I can send you. I'll send you a link right now, and then you can do with it what you will. But it's it's a beautiful thing. I recorded it for my channel.
I know. I have a link to it on today's show notes directly to your video. The other thing I wanted to bring up, in sort of in the same vein, was Bishop Schneider at the Chartres pilgrimage. He had something to say about Leo softly. What was that?
He has said publicly at least a couple of times now, which is, by the way, I just want to point out something. In the last year, I've covered him like twice. In the last year before the death of Pope Francis. And in the last week, I've covered him twice. I've had this theory that he was officially told to stop talking, but done so quietly without any fanfare. And this to me confirms this, because he is suddenly active the way he used to be active. But his homily was titled something to the effect of "There's no salvation outside the church. There is only one Church of Christ," I think is what he called it.
Amen. And
he was defending an unpopular truth. And it cuts at the heart of modern, contemporary ecumenical dialogue that even Pope Leo engages in. He said some really nice things to Buddhists about Buddhism recently for some reason. It's a pagan religion. He offers no salvation. And it cuts to the heart also, his speech does, of the post-Vatican II Nostra Aetate kind of, that there are mechanisms of salvation in every religion or some such stuff. Things that the church, if he showed that statement to Pope Pius IX, he would have wondered where this thing came from, who wrote this in the name of the church. But that's what he was doing. He was softly correcting, and that's the key word here, diplomatically, softly correcting, essentially the kind of the post-conciliar thing. Because the things that we've seen from Pope Leo that do raise some eyebrows are mostly just in keeping with the same things Benedict and JP2 and Paul VI, all the kinds of things they did. It was the post-conciliar paradigm that they were in keeping with.
Yeah.
And that's why it's also kind of hard for people to accept that these are problems when these are the things that they saw long before Francis, when people didn't pay as much attention.
Why do you think there's so much of a drive, even at the highest levels in Holy Mother Church, to have this ecumenical dialogue? Do they, like, if the goal is still to convert, to make disciples of them, like, when are we going to see that part of that conversation happen? Right? If all you're doing is trying to shake hands at the door, meet and greet, and get to know each other a little bit, but at some point in that conversation has to come, by the way, do you know there's no salvation outside of Jesus Christ? Like, it seems like that part of that equation never actually arrives. So what do they hope to accomplish with all this ecumenical gobbledygook?
In the most charitable way that I can look at this, it reminds me of something a cardinal said recently about homosexuality. And what he had to say was, we will accompany without criticism the people who live in this way. And he went on to talk about essentially being nice to them, being friendly to them will be an open invitation to conversion. And it reminds me of the modern hymn. I don't know which hymn it is, but it has this unforgettable line: "They'll know us by our love." And if you have a modern conception of love, not a traditional Christian understanding, which includes rebuking in a pastoral, friendly-ish kind of way sinners with the point of inviting them to correct themselves. If you accept instead the modern, uncritical version of love, then you understand exactly how they get here. And so they'll know us by our love, and they'll just feel needed to convert, even if we've told them already that their erroneous theology that is lacking Christ.
Hold that thought right there, Dr. Stein. We're at a break. We'll be back in 2 minutes to carry on this conversation. Share us with a friend. Don't go anywhere. Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain. Praise be to God. Coming up at the top of the hour, we'll say goodbye to the radio side. We'll stay on the live video side, and we'll interact with you directly, whatever you want to talk about, whatever your comments are about anything we spoke about today on the program. We might also get in a little bit about the Israel-Iran conflict as well. But to do that, you just need to go to thestationofthecross.com/ACT, where you can check out the live show. And you can also get the email sign up there and allow me to harass your inbox. And frankly, I don't even do that all that often anymore. I sent an email last week, but it's been a while. So, listen, let me harass you on occasion. In exchange, you get a lot of benefits out of the deal, and you're on the team. We couldn't be more grateful. And you get access to the private Telegram group and so much more. So go to thestationofthecross.com/ACT. And can I just also say thank you to iCatholicMobile.com for being a sponsor of what we do here. We love iCatholicMobile.com. They're more than just a phone company. They are way more than just a phone company. Check them out. Find out for yourself. iCatholicMobile.com. Dr. Anthony Stine from ReturnToTradition.org is our guest on Fridays. Praise be to God. Glad to have you back, Dr. Stine. We were talking about ecumenical dialogue just before the break. And Bishop Athanasius Schneider, it seems like he might be, increasing his activity in commenting on these topics, but he's doing so softly. And this is one of those things that we're like, okay, Pope Leo, why are we continuing on in this vein? It's one thing to reach out the olive branch. It's one thing to create conversation, create opportunity, network, and be able to have an opportunity to even have a conversation. It's quite another to then never take that conversation to where it's got to go. That always seems like the part that misses the most in the ecumenical outreach. And everybody seems to be okay with it. Very few people anyway are stopping to go, well, hold on, shouldn't there be a point to ecumenical dialogue? It's like, where's the dialogue going? It doesn't seem like it goes anywhere.
It looks like the aim of ecumenical dialogue in practice has been to foster friendship with the world. And
to what end?
I don't know why. Who knows? You're not going to get real friendship with the world when you occasionally get bishops and priests who remember that the world's morality is increasingly removed from basic Christian reality. And even most Christians don't keep to basic Christian morality anymore. And I'm not talking people who struggle with sin and go to make use of the sacraments to try to reconcile the disjunction between their profession and their practice. I'm talking about people who are like, oh, who cares what the church teaches on contraception? Get with the times, man. I'm talking to those people. And that's most Catholics and that's most Protestants. Just don't care at all about what the church's morality has been. So in an age of trying to get friendship with the world, what's that going to get the church? Nothing, really. Maybe access to financial markets or something, but if that's the reason for it, then we deserve a chastisement. We really do.
Yeah.
Maybe we're living through the chastisement from that. There's been a remarkable lack of correction of politicians who publicly repudiate the church's few remaining strong moral teachings that she's willing to proclaim publicly. Get a politician who doesn't care what the church teaches on abortion and gets away with it. We're back to what happened with Nancy Pelosi and Archbishop Cordileone. What happened within a couple weeks of that starting? She was at a papal mass receiving Holy Communion, and the biggest message you could possibly send about that entire subject. So, again, what does friendship with the world mean when you can't have the church is unwilling, it seems. The leadership, anyway, the human element are unwilling to defend the faith and defend the truth of the church, of the faith.
Yeah, this is the thing that we would not like Leo to continue on in the Francis vein, which brings us back to Fernandez, producer Jake, digging in deep into the Vatican archives. Did you find anything in particular to Pope Leo meeting with Fernandez?
So Pope Leo met with Cardinal Fernandez yesterday, and it's the third time. No, it's the third. It's the third time they've met.
Why does my stomach hurt all of it?
Because he's there. Like it doesn't mean anything because nothing's been announced. But he met with Cardinal Fernandez.
To the penguin.
Yeah, exactly. But Cardinal Fernandez met with Pope Leo for the third time so far in the pontificate. Nothing was announced regarding it, and a blog came out from Religion Digital from Spain, which said that they had one source that claimed that in the various audiences, the Argentine cardinal answered yes to the Pope's question about whether he could count on him, and Leo XIV confirmed him as head of the doctrine of the faith. Not only is that just a rumor from alleged sources, we don't know who, but also that just could mean temporarily confirmed, which is what Pope Leo said, did with that announcement. Is you can keep going for now. I haven't made my final decisions yet. So that
so
could
what you're
even
saying
mean
is
that.
It's all over.
Because the blog continues on to say, the continuity or replacement of Tucho will set the tone for the new era. Just all speculation. It's really just all speculation.
Which is exactly what I went over in my live stream this morning.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it was true, because it's the easiest option, but it's also wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't true.
I mean, didn't Francis keep Mueller on for years, right? Was it
for a while? Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
that's different though.
But also,
it's different because we like Mueller and we don't like Fernandez.
Well, no. Mueller's okay. Mueller's not a rock star theologian. He's okay, but Mueller didn't write "Touch Me with Your Mouth."
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
And Mueller was also theologically more liberal at that time.
Right.
If you go back to like 2005 and Cardinal Mueller's name comes up, nobody put him among like the traditionally conservative cardinals. He kind of moved into that position after Amoris Laetitia, and even then only with great struggle. He spent a good 2 or 3 years trying to defend Amoris Laetitia.
Right. Yeah.
So, Cardinal Mueller was on a journey. So it's not an apples and oranges thing unless suddenly Fernandez comes out and starts defending the church's actual teaching on homosexuality or something, and on marriage and the rest, which would be weird. And not just repeating it in a document where he then contradicts it, but actually defending it.
I'm seeing some of the comments today. It's going to be fun to be in the after show here in just a couple of minutes. I do want to get to one other story before we have to say goodbye to the radio side of our show today. Washington Archdiocese to make layoffs amid crippling economic challenges. This is part of the reason why I think that the American Cardinals voted as a bloc to have Leo put onto the chair, because of the Vatican's economic situation and in hopes of improving relations with big donors in America. Washington Archdiocese is feeling this same pain and struggle at a local level. What is Cardinal McElroy going to do to alleviate his economic woes?
I don't know. He could begin by apologizing for complaining about the U.S. government doing the same thing like 2 weeks earlier. I mean, this has the whiff of hypocrisy about it.
Yeah.
He went on he had spoken eloquently about how many of these bureaucrats in Washington are really good people. It's such a shame that many of them are
all the layoffs and the Trump admin. Is that what you mean?
Yes. And technically speaking, that's true. There are good people who have jobs in the government who've lost them. And it's their position I don't envy, and I do feel bad for them. But that's still that is extraordinarily hypocritical of him. So
yeah,
he could begin there. He could, if he wants to get the donor money rolling in to fix the problem, unshackle the Latin Mass in his diocese. Maybe
not going to happen, but it would
have
be nice.
Some of the problematic priests in his diocese who have McCarrick kind of allegations against them face justice. You know, things that would actually show that his reputation that he had before is in the past, and that he's a new man who's going to take care of the problems in the diocese. Fortunately, I don't think that person who can do that is going to be Cardinal Robert McElroy.
Right. That's over at thepillarcatholic.com. I'll put a link to that in the show notes, as well as the videos today on Bishop Schneider and Bishop Vigano, Archbishop Vigano, from returntotradition.org. We're going to put those in the links today for you as well over at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. It's Friday, so praise be to God. We're going to be back here Monday. Rob Morrow Jr. is going to join us on Monday. We're going to be talking about Malachi Martin and maybe any updates we have on the Israel-Iran conflict. All of that and more. I will see you in the after show. God love you. Hi, Joe McLean here, host of A Catholic Take. Thank you to everyone who has generously donated to our spring appeal. To reach our goal, we need the support of every listener. And right now, all gifts are being matched dollar for dollar. Your support will enable us to continue giving you the information and inspiration that you need every morning. If possible, please consider becoming a monthly, ongoing donor. Your monthly pledge will be matched dollar for dollar, and we'll send you a beautiful St. Benedict Decade Rosary just as a token of our appreciation. To help us reach our goal, call 877-711-8500 or visit thestationofthecross.com. You can even donate through our iCatholic Radio mobile app or just return the envelope from our recent mailing. Whether you make a monthly pledge or even a one-time gift, we are so very grateful for your generosity. Thank you, and may God bless you and your family.
And we're back. Welcome to the After Show, everyone. Happy Friday.
Hey, good morning, everybody. What is the name of the protests that are happening tomorrow? No King?
It's No King's Day, and I love this. I love it. Here's why I love it. Officially, the parades Trump has announced, officially, I recognize the man has an ego and loves the coincidence of it being on his birthday. Officially, it's to honor the 250th anniversary of the founding of the U.S. Army. And I double-checked that date. The founding of the U.S. Army occurred on June 14th, 1775, 250 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's the 250th anniversary, and that's what the parades are for. And the left has reframed this into, he's a king, he's a dictator, having military parades in his honor. Again, Trump's got an ego. His strongest supporters and defenders will admit that. And I'm sure he likes a coincidence.
Yeah.
Especially that's not what this is about.
No king but Jesus.
Spin it that way.
Amen, Paul.
Right.
Amen.
Well, here's the thing. When they say no kings, it's also a kind of an inadvertent attack on the kingship of Christ.
Right. Exactly. That's kind of where I was going with it all.
Don't participate in this if you don't like Trump. Just stay home. Typically, and I'm suspicious of these, by the way, because these are being held in rural communities across the country. There's like 12 of these or something planned in Oklahoma. Most of them in tiny little 5,000 people communities. Like they're tiny. And the locals are like 99% pro-Trump in my state, in those places. So again, this is not organic. they're busing people to these protests as an almost sign of intimidation for red state America. And I wish them the best of luck, because the governor of Florida went on TV yesterday or the day before and said, by the way, we have a law in this state that says if protesters are blocking you from being able to proceed and you feel in danger, you can run them over. He actually said that, basically. And the governor...
That's insane.
Yeah, the governor...
So insane.
Well, if you've seen some of the footage of protests where they caused the passing of this law, it's not so insane.
I know,
absolutely.
but
a lot
still,
of times
it's self-defense, total self-defense.
I get that,
Yeah,
but how do you think you're going to be able to go to sleep at night after that?
Definitely.
Like, no, absolutely not.
Depends on the person.
Communists?
I get that these people are horrible. Don't get me wrong.
It's like that Polish mercenary. It's like that Polish mercenary.
No way you're okay with running people over. It's just not okay.
It's like that Polish mercenary who was asked, what does it feel like to take a human life? And he said, I don't know. I've only ever killed communists.
Right. There's that. And then my governor has said here in Oklahoma.
And you didn't even put yourself on screen. Shame
I did.
on you,
I removed myself after
not.
I inserted it. I was on screen.
Oh.
I put my face to that.
I looked up and you weren't there.
I know. I'm coming in and out like
the governor of Oklahoma also told people that law enforcement are taking this very seriously, and then reminded them of what happened in 2020 when they tried BLM riots in Oklahoma. You had people show up, and then extras from RoboCop showed up and put the riots down before they started, and they did so with extreme prejudice. And he was just reminded them of how it went when they tried this stuff last time. So I would avoid going to too many like urban areas, or at least look to see where these are planned before you go out for your weekend. Yeah. You're going to go to Costco or something on your Saturday. Just make sure that you're not going to be driving through some place where a pallet of bricks has mysteriously been delivered.
Exactly.
By the way, the federal government's investigating that because they actually arrested the guy who's been delivering these $75, $100 riot masks, which means they're going to start going through that guy's communications and finding out where those came from. And they have to have come from somebody really rich.
We hope they're going to
really would love.
Will they tell us? I don't know.
I like to see like some rich progressive frog march for supporting terrorism, because that's what they're doing.
Yeah,
Josh
Hawley's trying to make it public. I hope he gets it. Yvonne, good morning to you, Yvonne. Richard Corwin, you guys are amazing. God love you. Janice, thank you for hanging out with us today. Thank you for being on the team. Praise be to Jesus in all things. I see Nelson here. Good morning. Becky Hansen, good morning to you. Jane, good morning to you. Christopher, good morning to you. Mateus from sunny California, praise be to God. Good morning to you. Hey, Mateus, I was just thinking, I saw a video the other day of some guy standing out in front of his store in California with a rifle to protect his store. And I thought, how is he legally allowed to do that? What is it? Is it like he must just have like a magazine of 5 rounds or something? It wasn't an AR-15. I don't remember. I couldn't tell exactly what it was. It was in California, like Los Angeles area, I think. And
some places have open carry now. LA does not have open carry. So maybe he was just
a rifle, and he had it slung. I couldn't tell if he had, like, because California gun laws are terrible, right? Like the no pistol grips kind of a thing, and tiny little capacity magazines, that sort of thing. So it's made me wonder, like the story of those Koreans on the rooftops trying to protect their businesses and such. Like, do they just not at that point? Are they just suspending the care factor? Like, we don't care what the laws are. We're just going to defend.
I've never heard that any of the roof Koreans went to jail for.
That's why I'm bringing it up. That's what makes me think about it. It's like nobody prosecuted.
Let me put it this way: do you think the mayor of Los Angeles, a lady who is universally reviled in this country, or Gavin Newsom, one of the most progressive governors in the country, desperately trying to paint himself as a moderate and doing a very bad job of it lately, wants to run for president? Do you think he wants to be the guy who has those people who are just providing their own security for their businesses? Want to be the guy who authorizes their arrest and prosecution for something Americans would agree with? Americans are generally okay with people defending their property. And I've seen the polling data on the use of military and things in LA, and Americans seem to be okay with it. Shockingly. or maybe not shockingly. I think people are just fed up with people saying, "Oh, we're peacefully protesting." The media saying peaceful protest as city is burning behind them and bricks are being thrown at police officers.
Right. Yeah. Richard Corwin says, Joe, Molotov cocktails are legal in California. In California. Well, it's open carry season in California. Molotov cocktails is certainly allowed in that factor, I suppose. Jane says, I heard motorcycle gangs are riding out to L.A. Wow. Someone's looking for a good time.
There aren't any already there?
There, of course there are.
They probably moved like most sensible people. Most sensible people have left California if they can.
There's a ton of motorcycle gangs in New Hampshire, actually. Idaho's got its fair share. I think they've gone to states
where's Sturgis located? Is Sturgis in like what, Wisconsin?
No, that is Dakotas.
Okay. Well, New Hampshire's still pretty far from the Dakotas, so
Yeah. That's it's in North Dakota, right? I think it's North Dakota or South Dakota. It's near Rushmore. It's right near Rushmore. Which state is that in, Jake? Do you know? I need
Mount
a
Rushmore?
fact checker. Yeah, is it North or South Dakota?
I think it's South Dakota, isn't it?
South Dakota? Okay, there you go. South Dakota.
North Dakota has Fargo.
Fargo. Oh, yeah. You betcha, yeah. Hey, Eric Rodriguez is on the team. Good morning, my brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ. Prayers for all. Yay and amen. Thanks for doing it. Douglas Ramikius, good morning. Ursula, good morning. I Celtis back in the UK. If I attack a thief in my house, I'd be arrested unless he is on the second floor of the house. So in other words, you got to drag him to the second floor. That's the only caveat to the whole thing, is you just got to make sure when the police show up, he's on the second floor. That's all. No big deal. Like, why is there a blood stain up the staircase? Stub my toe? I don't know. It's definitely on the second floor by the time they show up, though, right? The big fat problem with law enforcement being attacked is without law enforcement, I'll be attacked, and so will the idiots throwing the bricks. Yeah, buddy. That's where we're at. Law and disorder. Dr. Bob. Peaceful protest is best defined as praying the rosary outside an abortion facility. That is so threatening that 80-year-old grandmothers must be jailed. That's a good point. So true. James says Sturgis is South Dakota.
Yeah.
Richard says Antifa tried to interrupt Sturgis one year and they were not successful. You think? Like, who thought that was a great idea? Like, were they having lattes at Starbucks and they go, you know what? I got a great idea. Oh, yes, this is brilliant. We're going to go to Sturgis this year. Okay. Yeah, that's brilliant. Someone really thought that one through. Douglas, Joe, it's Remakis. Oh, your last name is Remakis. Douglas Remakis. Well, hopefully I'll remember that, Doug. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not good at names. I kind of mess them up all the time, but not on purpose. It's not intentional. Just, I don't know. Genetic flaw? Not even sure. White Wolf. California also has L.A. and San Fran. That nullifies the entire Sierra Madre. Steven, wasn't that in 2020 when they went to Sturgis? I remember the big brawl that went down in, was it New York? Was in one of the boroughs of New York between Antifa and the Proud Boys. It was like on video. It was really like Hollywood movie like. It was like the Gangs of New York kind of fight, kind of brawl. That was pretty crazy. Laura, Donna, rosaries you made me, Father. Brendan blessed them on Sunday. Going to pray them. Okay. Well, now that Jake, let's go back to Fernandez. Now that Jake has verified, in fact, that the story is true, and Fernandez is absolutely confirmed, 100% rock solid in his position.
Mm-hmm.
How do we feel about all of that? Thanks for fact checking that, Jake.
Anytime.
I've been looking for media reporting on this, any kind of mainstream Catholic, even bad mainstream Catholic sources, especially European ones, and I'm not seeing anything. Because now we're starting to get to like that middle late part of the afternoon in Italy. So if it's going to get reported today,
yeah. And again, this is from yesterday. This is the audience and the article were from yesterday.
That's the only good news. It's that it's fake. I mean, that's the good news here, is that this is fake news.
Again, even if they have a source who knows something, saying that Pope Leo asked him if he could count on him and he confirmed him in something, again, could just mean that he confirmed him to temporarily, hold that post,
which I'm not happy with,
and put. Okay,
I don't want him to temporarily have the host.
I do not. Like, this is such like facetious like dissatisfaction to be like. Again, he was put in there by the previous pontiff, and the current pontiff has a lot to worry about. So,
this is one of the things he's got to worry about. He's got Tuccio in his backyard.
Listen, if the guy who is there is not doing anything, then what's the harm of having him just stay there until you find out the best guy to replace him?
If there's nothing being done, then there's no need to have someone sitting there.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it makes no sense. It makes no sense to put to remove a head without having something in there.
And we'll call you when we need you.
It's just it's such small-minded view of
you can call me small-minded all you like. I don't want him anywhere in the Vatican. I don't want him to have any responsibility whatsoever. Sure. I want him to be retired for the rest of his life.
Yeah, so do I.
I would like him to go and contemplate and pray and fast and do penance and maybe, think about what he's done with his life so far.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I think he ought to do. I don't think he ought to be in charge of anything. I think it sends the wrong signal to keep him even temporarily. I just don't like it. I don't like it. And I'm glad that this story is fake. Praise be to God. That's at least reassuring.
Let's hope it remains fake.
Yeah.
They have personnel decisions to make, because this is the layup appointment. Yeah, he's got some political concerns to do, but should he care about alienating the worst elements among the hierarchy? I mean, really?
Exactly.
No, he's the Pope
I doubt
now.
Mainstream bishops.
He's
I
elected.
doubt mainstream bishops are. No one can force his hand. And
Francis,
if there's anybody in a
got
position
away with all of that
externally to the church forcing his hand, then we need to know about it, because there are whispers of that too. So we'll find out with these appointments, because if it's Fernandez or some other wishy-washy person we've never heard of, look, if we get a cardinal no one's ever heard of, SJ, as the prefect for the dicastery, the doctrine of faith, that's not a good sign either.
No, Schneider needs the job. Schneider needs to take that job. He'd be the greatest person.
No. Schneider needs to be made the bishop, in the cardinal archbishop in charge of the personal prelatures, with the Opus Dei, inviting the SSPX into it, the FSSP, give them correct.
Okay, but no, hold on. Wait. Let's shift. What if some fantasy curial position? That's what we're doing today. So what if instead, you give me Schneider to put in charge of doctrine. I'll give you back Burke. He can be in charge of that, right?
No, I don't want Burke in charge. I don't want Burke in charge of the SSPX. He has an awful opinion about the SSPX. He's absolutely awful on the SSPX. He repeats they're in schism nonsense, which is weird, since the Vatican has never declared them to be in schism. I'd rather put Burke in doctrine.
But no, he's too old. Who else?
He seems to be an okay health.
Is he? I don't know. COVID almost killed him.
And then I want Vigano to be made the papal executioner.
COVID made him
I want Vigano for papal executioner.
You want Vigano for what?
Papal executioner.
Yeah, bring back that
papal executioner. And then have him be in charge of getting rid of all the predator priests who've been getting shelter. And one big public ceremony in St. Peter's Basilica. If you don't want the friendship of the world, do that. That will unequivocally send a message that we're not putting up with this stuff anymore. And then watch the media try to spin how horrible it was that the Vatican executed a bunch of child rapists. See how that works for the media.
I don't know.
I'm kind of an extremist, though, so
Hey, Let's Go Lou is back. Good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Praise be to Jesus in all things. I see Lynn Pine here. Tomorrow is the start of Motorcycle Week in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a beautiful place to ride a motorcycle when it's blue skies and sunshine. The curvy roads there are amazing. But Motorcycle Week is insane. And I tried to avoid it when I lived there completely because and every year people die. Every year, because of those curvy roads, taking a curve a little too fast, they lose it, they die. Every year they're being scraped up off.
Where is this at?
New Hampshire. Motorcycle Week's a big deal there. In Laconia, it's in the Laconia area on Lake Winnipesaukee. It basically becomes party week, and it gets rowdy. So I always avoided it, like the plague. But I love motorcycles. I like riding motorcycles, too. I haven't ridden one in a long time now, but it is a good time. Praise be to Jesus. And I got to ride up through the mountains of New Hampshire and Maine, Massachusetts. It was really amazing. Laconia will be busy, says Les Golu. It's going to be very, very busy. Hey, Don Paddock, good morning to you. Linda Ann Wheeler is back. Good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Appreciate you being on the team. Praise be to Jesus. Becky says, can Vatican send ACT insiders a short list and we will take this off this pontiff's plate?
Exactly. Yes, I think that would be very synodal. Put laymen in charge of, appointing the curia. This is great. This is synodality. I love it.
Outsourcing
I'm glad everyone now is finally on board with Pope Francis the Great's agenda. Putting the laity in charge of curial appointments.
I like this idea. This is
great.
It's
wonderful
I'm okay
idea.
with this one.
Wonderful idea. We'll do it by YouTube poll. It'll be great.
This is not unlike Donald Trump giving a pass to illegal aliens working farms and hotels.
Yeah.
Just not any other industry in America. It's kind of like that. I'd be okay with giving a pass to lay involvement in curial appointments as long as I'm the guy who gets to be the layperson.
My problem is I suspect Elon Musk's personal philosophy about certain things is very prevalent among certain segments of people who would watch your show, which is the funniest outcome is the most likely. So they would choose they would actually choose the most absurd person.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, go put who's the most fringe Catholic commentator that has got a fairly sizable audience that you can think of that's not an out-and-out set of a contest, and put that person in charge of the prefect for the Catholic.
The most fringe.
Let's find Pope Michael II, and we'll make him head of the bishops. Or whatever.
Basically.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's not name names, but just keep them in mind.
I definitely want Schneider in charge of doctrine. Yeah. Schneider is he's very astute. He understands the faith very, very clearly. I think he would be perfect in that role. You just got to find someone else to make sure that the trad communities are all set. I don't know who that other person is, but it's got to be someone else. I just feel like it'd be not using Schneider to the best of his ability if we didn't put him as doctor in chief. And then he would probably get the red hat too. And who knows? He could become, Hobley. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Hey, Walter and Miriam, Carl Thomas, good morning. Helen Grace, good morning. White Wolf, good morning. Bern, you got motorcycles in Michigan. I bet you do. I bet it's quite lovely in the upper, what do you call it? Is it upper PI? Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where it gets very lovely. I don't know. Michigan's a very lovely state in general. How do I say your name? Daegu Down? I don't even know how to say that. As Father Rippiker says on record, SSPX is regular, but sacraments says SSPX is irregular, but sacraments are valid. Sunday Mass is valid. Well, they have an irregular canonical relationship, but they're not in schism. I think that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They say the Pope's name at the Mass, and they have his pictures in their chapel.
But besides that, Mrs. Lincoln, how is the play? Yeah. Well, we've always wanted them to get into a regular canonical position, right? Like that's the goal.
Some people don't.
Well, that's true, but but it is the goal to regulate them. Yeah. The problem is we don't want to do the things necessary to achieve the goal. I would say might be true on both sides of that equation, right? When the SSPX says, "Listen, we want to be regular. Let's have a conversation about the things that we find very troubling out of Vatican II." And the other side says, no, let's not talk about that. Well, that's not helpful, is it? Like, we should be able to sit down and debate those issues and figure out what needs to be done or not done at all. Like, the conversation should be had, but nobody wants to have that conversation. That is a problem. I'm not an SSPX guy. I don't go to their chapel. But I'm just saying, like, it seems reasonable to go, we think that there needs to be a thorough conversation about these issues out of Vatican II and what we're seeing now as heterodox issues and heresies and blasphemies and all these other things. We want to talk about those things. And the other side says, no, we're not going to talk about those things. Well, then how much do you really want to regularize that relationship if you don't want to have that conversation? I think that's one thing. And then on the other side, on their side, I honestly believe there's a lot of people in the SSPX who are quite happy to keep this arm's length relationship just the way it is. They're not motivated all that much to sort of force the issue because they like what they've got. You know, they're on the team, but they're not being subjected to the rules of the team all the time. They kind of like that relationship. So I can see it going both ways.
People love not having a superior.
Yeah.
People
100%.
love not, being obligated to be obedient and being obligated to even be persecuted. People love being able to say, aha, you got shut down and we're still okay because we're not subject to XYZ, which is basically an un-Catholic point of view. It's un-Catholic. It's that attitude is not Catholic.
I would agree. So
I
think there's issues on both sides.
Exactly.
And we want to see them become regularized.
Yes,
but we
need to have as you say, we need to have those tough conversations in charity and clarity.
100%.
That's how it has to work.
Yeah. And White Wolf says the SSPX would be great if it was not full of sellout and predator priests. I don't believe that's a true statement, White Wolf. I don't believe they're full of sellout and predator priests. I think there are some great priests and faithful Catholics that go to the chapel. Again, I'm not one of them. I don't go to the chapel. However, I will say this. Anywhere there is a priest who has abused others, broken his vows, harmed the body of Christ, I would like that priest, wherever they may be found, to face justice. It's a pretty standard approach. That's right. So whether they are SSPX or anything FSSB or anywhere else, they should face justice. Period. They don't need to go any further than that. I mean, that's the application of justice, which is why Vigano, because of this synodality that we're implementing on behalf of Leo XIV, that's why Vigano is going to be reinstated and be given the papal executioner role in St. Peter's Square. Could you imagine? That would blow the minds of the entire planet all at the same time. Hyperbole is brainless. Have you been talking to my wife again, Napoleon? Hyperbole is a beautiful gift of God. What do you mean? I don't understand. Sounds like you and my wife would agree on that. It is opposite. Anyway, Lost Creole. Good morning. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, did I ever send you, Joe, those quotes from our priest when he gave a homily and he had a bunch of quotes from saints about the evils of sarcasm?
The evils of sarcasm?
Yeah, about saints saying that sarcasm is a weapon used to harm the souls of the charitable or something like that. It's like all these quotes from saints about sarcasm. I was like, oh no, Joe.
It just reminds me of it just reminds me of this kind of weird evangelical Protestant streak among some conservative Catholics in America, where it's like, well, you shouldn't drink whiskey. It's bad. Having it at all is bad. Not getting drunk. Having it at all is bad. Or this mundane secular interest in some things. Shouldn't do that. It's bad to do it at all. Not to let it rule your life. Not to get too deep into it. Not to be discerning in what you can. No, at all is bad. I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to get people to do that. I mean, if anything, Carlo Acutis' canonization is at least a good repudiation of that. Since the kid had mundane hobbies. Doesn't seem to be blocking his canonization. And I am one of those who's amused that there's a PlayStation controller out there that's now going to be a first-class relic or a second-class relic.
That's not
amused
cool,
by this.
Man. Come on. Come on. What are we talking about? Rosie, good morning to you. Praise be to God. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be no King's protest in Laconia over the weekend. I can tell you that. That's not going to happen. Not up there. Yikes.
Oh, there's some in rural Oklahoma, like deep red rural Oklahoma, like militias exist in that town. Of rural Oklahoma.
Idaho, too.
And,
yeah.
And I'm just wondering, are the Antifa types getting bussed in? Are they ready for what might happen if they throw the wrong brick at the wrong person?
No. Mm-hmm.
Which is probably the whole point of this, actually.
Well, they want the
people
chaos,
who are funding
right?
this. Actually,
it seems like they just want the chaos, whatever it is. Carl Thomas says, tomorrow is the U.S. Army's 250th birthday. Let's celebrate. I don't... Can't do it, Carl. I'm sorry. Okay, listen. My father, my grandfather, my uncle, my cousins, they're all Army guys, all of them. But I knew that there had to be at least one man in the family. So I joined the Marine Corps. So there you go. Here's the Marine Corps. And their birthday is until November, and they too will be 250 years old. So we'll celebrate in November. How about that?
That'd be awesome if we had another parade.
1775, my Marine Corps came alive. Tun Tavern. I've never been there, by the way. I've always wanted to go to Tun Tavern, Philadelphia.
It reminds me of a friend of mine who was in the Navy, and he lives now near an Air Force base. And he got to talking to somebody. They told him that they were in the Air Force, and he was like, "Oh, you military?" He's like, "Yeah. Why are you thinking about joining the military?" Because the attitude was the Air Force that a lot of Navy guys have.
The Air Force.
Marine, I think you share the attitude.
That's right.
Like the only branch that Marines tend to get along with is the Navy, because there's kind of a close relation there. But
I got to tell you though, it's hilarious when you go to Lackland Air Force Base, is where they do basic training for the Air Force. 6 weeks, by the end of which you will have run 1 mile, one continuous mile. At the end of your 6 weeks of tough training. It's hilarious when you see they call them TIs, technical instructors, I guess, TIs, instead of DIs, drill instructors, or drill sergeants, as the Army would call them. But in the Air Force, the TIs, they're hilarious because these dudes, they work out only on their lats and their shoulders and their arms and their waist. They don't do any leg days. So they have these massively wide lats and no waist and no legs, and it looks just hilarious to watch.
They're literally the meme. Friends don't let friends skip leg day.
Yeah.
They're the meme where the guys are like the chicken.
Yes, 100%. It's so funny, actually.
If you are watching this and you are thinking about going to the gym and lifting weights, because it's proven that weightlifting, if done properly, can help you like increase your longevity and your energy and your testosterone and all these other important things. Be balanced about it.
Right.
Don't leave entire areas of the body untrained. Don't worry about training your neck. I've seen people do that. I don't know why. Your shoulders will do the work for you.
Christopher.
Go work your calves once in a while. Go work your leg muscles once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're gonna look ridiculous.
Christopher says, false. We ran 3 days a week for an hour. Okay. You ran 3 whole days a week, huh? So out of 7 days, you ran 3. That's cute.
I was never in the military, so the Air Force.
That's very precious.
People have done more than I ever did. But, I was just recounting what my Navy friend said.
I actually went to, I did a basic training out of Lackland with the TIs and all of that. I will say this. I've been to Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps boot camp. And the Air Force, by far, was the most your underwear had to be ironed in perfect 6-inch. I can't remember the dimensions, but 6-inch blocks perfectly. Like your uniforms had to always be pressed and hanging perfectly in the hanger. Everything was incredibly detail oriented, and they would bust you for the slightest infraction on those details. Whereas in the Marine Corps, they were just tossing your thing all the way down the hall anyway, all the time. So there was never you didn't have time to iron underwear. You were too busy being beaten with it, and then stuffing it back into the box in hopes of surviving the day. So here's hats off to the Chair Force and the baristas that serve our country in the off we go into the wild blue yonder. I'm doing you're doing legs right now. Christopher is so triggered. They were insane about how we had to fold and roll our stuff. That's totally true. 100%. Absolutely. No one else was nearly as intense as the Air Force is when it comes to that stuff.
Well, it's all part of discipline too. Learning how to properly fold laundry and things actually is a weird discipline that you learn. So there's good reason for it. Not just, the virtue of being clean, but this is a discipline.
This actually goes back to the whole thing about Catholic obedience. It's about obedience and fidelity in small things leads to obedience and fidelity in big things. That's how it works in the spiritual life. That's how it works in the Catholic Church. That's how it works in the military and anything. If you do the small things with fidelity, you'll be able to do the big things with fidelity. That's a common principle.
Mm-hmm. Christopher, good morning. Says, Brother Joseph is correct. From your lips to God's ear. Christopher, from your lips to God's ear.
Dangerous
celebration
words.
Is 10 November. Semper Fi. Is this funny too?
Can we have another parade in November? That'd be great.
We always say
we should have more military parades. I love military parades.
I don't actually mind the military parade, to be honest with you.
I think it's great. Every other country does this.
It's fun. Yes, it's great. Let's see the nuclear payload missiles on the back of the trucks. Let's do that. That sounds like fun. Mm-hmm. Kids would love to see that. I always loved a good air show.
And honestly, air shows are amazing. Nice to actually have an idea. It'd be nice to have an idea of what your taxes are paying for with the military. I mean, just as a basic thing, that would not be a bad idea. But I don't know. Kind of weird thing to think about, given that right now, like the latest message from the president to Iran this morning was, "Don't shoot at our assets." Basically, don't shoot at the U.S. military presence, as a warning to Iran. For those who don't know, America has officially never fired first in a war, except in Iraq. That's why people were so freaked out about it. But we officially don't shoot first. But we do have a policy of, if you start something, we will end it.
20 years later.
And as long as Trump doesn't start parking military assets strategically between Israel and Iran, then hopefully cooler heads will prevail, at least between Iran and the U.S. We'll see.
Mm. Hey, Paul, no, that is fake news. I'm sorry you did not hear me say that I went through Marine, Air Force, and Army boot camps. I went through Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps. And for the Air Force, it was with ROTC. It was at Lackland with the TIs, which was fun. And then it was a good warm up, because then I went right after that. I went to Great Lakes for the Navy, and with their company commanders and all that. And that was actually quite intense. That was way more physically demanding than I ever thought it was going to be. A lot harder than the Air Force from a physical standpoint. And then, of course, when I graduated high school, I went to the Marine Corps boot camp for 3 months out in San Diego. But I never have been to the Army. I did go through my dad allowed me to, he set me up before I went to boot camp. He was up at Fort Drum, New York. And I'm afraid of heights. I have a issue with heights. And I was like a little concerned. By the way, the Air Force in Lackland Air Force Base has the greatest obstacle course. It is like a kid's playground. Kids would love to play on that thing. It looks so much fun. As compared to like the Marine Corps obstacle course in San Diego, which is like boring and uninteresting, but also scary because it's, 15 feet in the sky or 15 stories in the sky. And you're just like, you just know you're going to fall and die. So, my dad set me up and I got to go through the air combat school. I got to have an experience of the air combat school at Fort Drum, which is just rappelling off of the tower and things like that. He also set me up with a ride in a Huey with the door open, strapped in with the door open, way up in the sky, banking and such. That was a blast. That was a good time. But I've never been to Army boot camp, so never got to experience that. Christopher says, we also didn't have all the actual military equipment to keep clean and in order. All we chairmen had to upkeep was our underwear, socks, and uniforms and boots. I was in one of the last classes to have to polish black boots. They don't... What? Are you saying they don't polish boots anymore? What?
What
do they do?
Maybe they have patent leather.
But those are the core fans. What? Maybe
just maybe, Pete Hegseth will bring that stuff back because he seems kind of big on doing the military doing things that were like logical that the military always did.
How? I gotta say,
whatever else you might think of him, it's a good idea that the Secretary of Defense is in good shape and is willing to work out and train physically with the men he might have to command to die. So it's a good idea that he does that.
It
stuff.
is inspiring. I don't love Pete Hegseth all that much, to be honest with you, but like it is
not
inspiring.
Wild about his theology.
From a guy, I'm not wild about the man's theology, but as a guy who served in the enlisted ranks, so knuckle dragger, bottom of the barrel, that kind of thing, to see your sec dev do a PT run with the troops, that's pretty inspiring. It was always inspiring to me when our commander ran alongside with us. You know what I mean? And like, especially like in Hawaii when we had to run up Radio Hill. And it's a massively steep hill, and it really kills. It kills. Your legs burn on that run. But when your commander leads the pack, man, that's inspiring. It really is inspiring. So hats off to Pete Hegseth for doing PT with the boys. Christopher says, the obstacle course that actually had the best ones closed when we were there for some reason. That's too bad. Man, that one at Lackland really looks like a kid's playground. It's very inviting and fun looking. Joe, our MTIs, I don't know what that stands for, specially told us that Air Force fitness training was harder than the Marine Corps. So there. Well, you've been lied to, my friend. There's no possibility that is true. Zero possibility that is true.
Oh boy! So apparently, it's being reported that Iran has raised the red flag in their country, which Islamic
jihad
in Islam is a symbol for justice and retaliation.
Well, what do we expect them to do, right? Like they can't not do anything.
Oh yeah.
You know, so I think what we're going to experience is a drone attack on Israel is probably what we're going to see. Maybe some missiles.
Right. They've already. I mean, they're going to do a retaliatory strike, and we know that they've lost a bunch of like their top military guys. So this is probably not going to be a symbolic slap on the wrist kind of thing like before.
Yeah, I guess I was chatting it up with Rob. He wasn't able to join us after all. We're going to have him on Monday anyway, but I was trying to chat it up with him this morning about this, and I just don't want it to escalate. So if we're going to tit for tat, now I think the thing is most people are reporting that Israel attacked Iran, but what they're not also, maybe some, but not all, they're failing to point out that there was a lot of people executed in these attacks. It wasn't just nuclear facilities. They were pinpointing individuals, and there was a whole list of them that they executed.
Yeah.
Some of them were executed by missiles. Right? They shot a missile into the bedroom window and killed whoever was in that room. So it could have been the person, could have been their wife, could have been other people. I don't even know. But it apparently, I guess that's the fog of war or that's collateral damage. That's just how it goes when Israel does things. And we should just all be grateful that they didn't destroy the entire building. I mean,
wait, so okay. Israel's able to conduct precision strikes like that in Iran, but in Gaza, everything just has to be leveled?
Yes, exactly.
That makes sense. That
totally like, well, of course, just because that's why.
Yes, because
don't you see?
Yeah, exactly.
It's because
proper Talmudic logic there.
Clearly, yeah. So like you see these pictures on X of like a single hole through a building, you know, and just that bedroom was destroyed.
Yeah.
Very precise. Now it helps when you have Mossad on the ground doing laser pinpoint targeting for those.
Yeah, they mentioned they had a whole infiltration thing. They had like a drone deployment station that they infiltrated into Iran, something along those lines.
Yeah. So what will happen in response? I just guess I hope and pray that there's not going to be an escalation of a regional war. Things getting uglier and uglier and uglier. I just don't want that.
When was the last time that Israel and Iran went at it? Didn't Israel conduct,
not long ago.
Didn't Israel conduct some strikes in Iran recently? And it kind of just
missile strikes.
Yeah, it kind of
drones and missiles
fizzled out.
Yeah, thankfully. Praise be to God.
It seems to be, again, people people every time react as if, World War III is confirmed kicking off. Like, let's make that call when it actually happens. But,
yeah.
I don't know. Liz Finch says, I was in the Air Force. We didn't go through makeup application training. Oh, I'm so sorry. My heart breaks for you.
Carl Thomas said that the Air Force trained their women to apply makeup. I said it's probably worse now. They probably train the men to apply makeup as well.
That's right. Yes,
at least under Biden, I'm sure they did.
By the way, I was so happy when Hegseth came in and like day one got rid of all that crap out of the military.
Yeah.
Pardon my language. But.
Yay and amen. Christopher's bringing up another good point here. Does Iran know how many Jews live here in the United States? Yes, of course they do. And I guess that's one of my chief concerns in an escalated environment is we're going to see more terrorist attacks here in the United States. Whether they be on Jews or anybody else.
Get directly involved. This could become another proxy war where Russia gives weapons to Iran, we give weapons to Israel. And we go naughty, naughty, naughty for doing, overstepping the bounds of decency, mostly aimed at the other side, but occasionally on the side we're supporting, just so we can look like the good guy. Give me another one of those situations. I'm not immediate, oh no, there's a war going on, that means World War III. I'm not one of those guys, because that's not.
Well, that's certainly not proven to be true so far, right? Like, and that's good.
Yeah.
That is good that it's not. I don't want to see it go any further than this, but I do believe that the opportunity for homegrown terrorism is going to be on the rise as a result of these incidents. The guy throwing firebombs at the Jews in Boulder, Colorado, being an example of what we can expect, but could it get even worse than that? I think it could, and certainly there are a lot of people who are trying to sound the alarm on that. What's her name? Sarah, what's her last name? She was on the Sean Ryan podcast. She in particular is trying to sound the alarm and all of that, saying it's going to get worse right here in good old America. Burn, watch out, everyone. Iran raised the flag of nothing burger. I hope you're right, Burn. Now, if they raised the weird pride flag, then I'd be worried. Yikes. I saw somebody post on X. I saw somebody post on X from Iran saying there were a lot of Iranians who are supporting Israel, and they really just want the return of the Shah. So I don't know. I think it's a complicated issue. I certainly don't understand it all. Mm-hmm. Eugenia, good morning. This is not to mention we have sleeper cells here. Exactly, we do. 100%. Mm-hmm. Command and Conquer Red Alert 2.
I'm more concerned about the Chinese property near military bases where they can pop drones up if they needed to. That I'm more concerned about.
Christopher, you deleted your comments. I saw something there, and then you deleted it. I'm actually concerned about China owning farms all across the country, but apparently Maine has this very significant problem with China buying up land there and growing drugs and all other kinds of crazy stuff going down on these properties. China has got its tentacles all over.
Oklahoma has this problem where the marijuana legislation was written badly enough that apparently a lot of the foreigners, there are like a lot of foreigners who own property here growing marijuana, and most of them are Chinese.
Joe McLean, please recognize me. Well,
Brother Ave Maria keeps wanting us to acknowledge his request or something like that, but he hasn't posted his request. I haven't seen your request anywhere, brother. Like if you want us to see it, you got to repost it.
You got to post it.
Yeah.
Carl Thomas, again, Lori H. Good morning. Farmland to house sleeper cells, most likely. Well, that's the point, right? Like they're conducting business, which provides financially for their operations, but while they're here, they can do other things. And I think that's part of the concern. But in Maine, there's a very serious issue with these Chinese taking over these properties, and they're just buying them up. And then, of course, we know that they've been spying on our facilities all across this country for a very long time. The balloons being an example of that, which I'm sure still happen, even under Trump. I'm sure they're still happening. KSW, Benedictine Oblate, I'm so tired of it all. I don't fear anyone anymore. Honestly, it's all just exhausting. Disorder is tiring. I do think that that's a good statement too. It's like it is. After a while, it just gets old, and you're like, that's what I like. The Annie Jacobson Nuclear War book. I said to my kids, if there's ever if you ever get an alarm, an alert that says, "Hey, there's an inbound nuclear weapon," I said, just simply pray. Don't even stress about it. Don't, because it's all over at that point. So pray.
It's either all over or you're going to get to live through the aftermath that nobody wants to live through anyway.
Right.
And you live in a major city anyway, so
it's over.
I'm just saying.
That's my point. It's like it's over. But like a nuclear strike in Houston will definitely affect you outside of Oklahoma City or anywhere in between Oklahoma and Tulsa.
Oh, yeah,
the fallout,
the
fallout's going to kill you.
Maybe I've looked at the fallout maps. It's not the fallout that I'm actually that worried about. It's the survivors coming in from other places, and it's the total collapse of all infrastructure. We'd be lucky to keep the power on, because there's a power plant that's like in the middle of nowhere that gives us our electricity. But we'd be so lucky to keep that going for very long, because whatever its power is coming from, it has to come from somewhere. The supplies for it.
Exactly.
It's coal. It has to be shipped in.
Yep.
It's not nuclear. So like, infrastructure collapse, death. I mean, it's right. So I always wondered about these like weirdly recently, mostly progressives who couldn't wait for us to go to war with Russia. I'm like, guys, you live in the places that are going to have like multi-warhead hydrogen bombs dropped on. What is this? Like, do you want to die that badly? Because that's what would happen. The two places that get hit in a limited nuclear war are major cities and major military bases. So why anybody who lives on or near one is wanting for those kind of things, I don't know. People don't think about this.
Yeah, Christopher says, I just hope I'm inside the blast radius to get it over with quickly, you mean? Just so you don't have to like suffer.
Here's what you want to do. If that's what you want, if you live near your state capital or you live near your international airport and you are out and about and you've been told you've got 10 minutes, drive there.
Right. Just drive straight.
Because those are the places they target. They target seats of government and they target the major airports.
Yeah.
For civilian targets. If you live near an Air Force base, just try to get through the gate. Of course, the MPs will probably try to stop you. Or the MPs will be underground in the shelters that they have on those bases. One or the other. But
yeah. Man, the Annie Jacobson book really is scary. It's the scenario she paints that is like frightening because it escalates incredibly quickly to a global thermal nuclear war. One little missile necessarily escalates to a global thermal nuclear war, and everybody's involved. It's just a nightmare scenario, and it's frightening to think about. For sure.
Let's play a game.
I did read there is a counter argument to that book that was written in the 80s by some author. I can't remember exactly, but he had a book called War Day, and the entire premise was it was written in the 80s that the Cold War turned into a nuclear war, and much to everybody's shock, Russia and America nuked each other, and the rest of the world sat back and watched because they'd had secret agreements to just let the big dog fight it out, and then they they were just like, nope, we're not getting involved. And then it was life in America afterwards, which was not pleasant. And that country getting picked apart by its former allies because they were like, well, you can't stop us now. And your provisional government is totally weak and can't stop us. Now, the author, pretty sure is a liberal because he kind of ignored the fact that most of the survivors come from the heavily armed parts of the country, and they wouldn't put up with that. But it's still an interesting thought.
Christopher on YouTube says, running up KT at K-Bay. That's where I was. Radio Hill and K-Bay Conway Bay is crazy. Says, was how I got my start. No spit and polish after 2004. Op tempo was high, and they thought we couldn't handle it. Attention to detail is dead. K-Bay is a wonderful place. Beautiful. The beaches are amazing, but we used to have to run on those beaches, which was not fun. To run on a beach. If you ever ran on a beach, it's not fun. It's not a good time. It's hard to do. $67 million Chinese mystery in New Hampshire. What are you talking about, Christine OFS? I've never heard of this. The company was only worth $15 million. The mayor says nearby water plant will never be sold. Can't trust mayor or anyone. What? I don't even, what's going on? What are they, 67 million? What are the Chinese up to in New Hampshire?
What
Chinese?
Probably part of their Belt and Road initiative. Honestly, the Chinese are not above working, trying to work with states and local governments that are run stupidly to promote their own agenda.
Well, at the end of the day, pray your rosary. If you ever get you ever hear the alarms go off and there's reports of inbound nuclear warheads, just stop and pray your rosary. If you prayerfully you're with your family when you're doing it, or if you can get to your family as quickly as possible, just pray your rosary. God's will be done in all things. God's not limited in any way. He can shelter you from a nuclear explosion just as much as he can shelter you from anything. Or if it's his good pleasure that you should suffer and die, then pray that you die in a state of grace and you go to heaven forever, and you'll never have to suffer through another nuclear bomb. Praise be to Jesus. I think that's the tough. That's the tough bottom line. Low key, Joe, have you started running again since you started your weight loss? I do run a little bit. I don't run a lot, and there's a reason. Running is actually very bad for your joints. Especially when you're still a big guy. I'm still a big guy, even though I've lost a lot of weight. And it's my goal. Yeah. And I tend to prefer the other forms as much as I can. I have done some sprinting. That's very good. Sprinting for fat burning is excellent. So like short sprints with short breaks in between, sprinting, like just, I forget how many meters I will sprint, but I'll sprint, stop, and sprint again, and do that for several times. That's very good for fat burning. But general running, like I used to do in the Marine Corps, terrible for your joints. And my goal is to get to my deathbed without having to replace knees, okay, or my hips. My my dad, everybody's got knee surgeries. It's like it's a mess. And my dad not only spent 20 years in the Army, he loved to run, so he ran for many, many years. He was also a big basketball player, and that is why his knees are terrible. So I prefer other forms of cardio. I particularly like kickboxing. I do a lot of heavy bag kickboxing cardio, which is excellent. And I've started doing jump roping again to get in on the action too, but I just do some running, but not a whole lot. I actually prefer walking. Walking is fantastic for weight loss and for cardio.
We ordered we bought an adaptive motion trainer, which is like a variation on an elliptical, easier version. Sure. It's easier on the knees.
Yeah.
And they're very great. They're great. You'll find them at the better gyms. And I actually got a really fantastically good price on it. And it was really highly rated on Amazon. So we just need to assemble it. And that is the first part of our little home gym thing that we're going to put together. Because since I got sick in the fall, and by the time I recovered, it was spring, and all of a sudden the weather changes here were causing all my old gym injuries to flare up. So I couldn't get to the gym. It's been months since I've been in. So this gives me no excuses other than like barely being able to walk to start working out, which is good because I need it. I need to get back to exercising. I really do. I'm in the same boat. I want to avoid things like limb removal from diabetes or blindness from diabetes or, cybernetic replacement parts, or even worse than that, we've come up with a miracle cure for your diabetes to things. All we have to do is inject you with a stem cell serum, and it'll cure what ails you. I'm like, yeah, great, thanks. I would like to avoid all that stuff.
I would too. Even cortisone shots, no, thank you.
From myself, the only stem cell treatment I'm okay with is stuff is when they take it from your own stem cells, because you have stem cells in your nasal cavity. And if they say this withdrawal of stem cells from your nasal cavity is going to be the most painful experience you've probably ever had.
I'm having flashbacks to what was the Schwarzenegger film again where they were digging that thing?
Recall. You're thinking Total Recall because it's the only one that can, the only reference that could possibly work here.
That's all I saw in my mind just a second ago was them trying to rip this thing out of my skull through the nose. Like, yeah, no, thanks, but no thanks. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Yeah.
I guess it was Merlo. Merla says, my brother-in-law just had knee replacement surgery this week. He ran throughout his life. There you go. Running is a good time until all of a sudden you have to have surgery. and then it's not so much fun anymore. Frankincense essential oils is really good for reducing inflammation on the joints. So is not having sugar or lots of carbs. Great things to reduce inflammation. And processed foods. Processed foods are terrible. They cause lots of inflammation. I had gout. I had severe chronic gout. I was having to wear sandals to mass on Sundays because my right foot was so swollen with gout, living on a cane. I was like, forget this. I can't do this anymore. It was now or never. I wasn't even 50 years old at the time. And that's when I came across Dr. Stine and his work on carnivore. And I'm like, I'm going for it. I'm going full carnivore.
I really got to get back to recording stuff for that video channel. I got to get back to recording stuff for that channel. I've got a couple of video articles I can make into videos for that channel. I just haven't bothered yet. It's just, I'm not the most disciplined about staying on the carnivore diet, so I feel like I fraud whenever I make a video for that.
Well, I mean, I am mostly carnivore with a tinge of keto, is the way I describe myself.
Well, yeah, they call that ketovore, and even like some of the hardline carnivore influencers who are doctors will say scientifically, if you're getting 80% of your calories or your nutrition from animal sources, then it's carnivore. So most of them will say, they'll just ask you, why are you having that salad? Or why are you having the avocado or whatever plant you're consuming?
Avocado's good, though.
And they'll usually... It is. I like avocado. It's usually
great
my go-to.
fat.
Like these days,
I'm good fat.
Great oil for chips.
I'm more ketovore than anything else these days.
I actually would eat an avocado a day if I could. I do like avocado. I'll just throw an entire
fiber though. It's a lot of fiber in those, and
so
fiber
good.
Fiber can cause irritable bowel syndrome for a lot of people. Like fiber is way overrated in the standard diet because it can cause you problems if you have too much.
Yeah, it can actually sit in your bowels too.
Avocado. They do make avocado that's just mashed up avocado in a little cup with a lid that you can buy, and you look at the ingredients, and it's like the mildest preservative in there to make it so it's not brown when you buy it.
You can just use lemon juice to keep things from browning. By the way, if you're slicing up apples, use a little, especially if it's going into a pie where you're going to put lemon in there anyway. Use a little lemon juice in water, and that'll keep the apples from browning.
Or you can just make, instead of avocado, just make guacamole, which requires lemon or lime anyway. And then you just a little bit of that, and then when the surface is brown, you just mix it back up.
Does an avocado toast a day keep the boomer away, or something like that? Is that
no? But avocado is delicious with steak. By the way, I know this from
yes, 100% agreed. I love it on just about anything, really. Yes. By the way, day go down. I do fast from or abstain from meats on Friday. Yes, all year long. We abstain from meat, and but this week especially, these are penitential days.
Yep, the Ember days.
The Ember days. So today, tomorrow, is your other opportunities to abstain from or have meat only once, right?
So
on Ember Day?
Yes, Ember Wednesday and Ember Saturday. It's fasting and partial abstinence, which means you can eat meat at only the main meal of the day, which is it's a one meal and two collations. That's for Ember Wednesday and Ember Saturday. Ember Friday is fasting and total abstinence. And yes, it is appropriate to fast and abstain during a celebratory period, even the great octave of Pentecost. It is appropriate to joyfully fast and abstain. So do it with joy. Do it for
with joy.
Yeah, exactly. Happily
fast with joy. This is joyful. This fasting stuff.
Yep.
It's good.
We should do everything with joy.
Yeah,
we
praise be to God.
We can even end the show with joy in 1 minute here.
In 1 minute. Female KC Royals fan from Nebraska. I basically squeaked in right before my foot surgery. You're having foot surgery. I'm so sorry. Everything okay with your foot? Hopefully your foot's going to be all right. Karen, Ember Days and local Catholic Church is having a pig roast.
If it's the main meal on Saturday, that's fine.
If it's your only day, it's your only meal for meat, fine.
If it's after First Vespers, then it's basically Trinity
pig
Sunday
roast
already.
Is good. Pig roast is tasty. I will give it that. I was still doing my first Fridays at the time, and luckily that Mass is at what Fridays that my mom... Okay, not sure.
That went nowhere fast.
That went. Yeah,
Sorry,
I thought it was related to the foot. I was looking for foot information, and it wasn't.
We'll never know now.
Now it's all over, I guess. Burn. Mary comes down on a cloud and moves the sun. I can't do it because Mary never complained. What?
True, Mary never complained. I think Byrne's making fun of people making excuses for things.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. There you go. Dr. Stine, what is your carnivore channel?
Practical Carnivore. And now I feel like I have to go record something.
Have we guilted you into recording another video? Praise be to God. I hope so. I feel like I've accomplished something today. If that's true.
Things to do. There's a funny story out there where now the evolutionists are trying to tell you that the cavemen were vegans, which destroys their entire scientific foundation. So that's going to be fun.
We'll see you guys on Monday. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. God bless you all. Thanks for being on the team.